We've had a few workshops so far this year to help folks out in general. But one thing we felt, Bruno and I thought would be nice, would be just to have a time for just people who use the book or who are interested in using the book to just kind of go through it and look at the basic structure of a unit and talk about each part in context of this new online situation that we're in, and see if we can kind of pool ideas. We're not total experts here, any of us. We're thrown into this situation suddenly, and so we're hoping that people who use the book and can share the way we use it can help us all, right? So that's the idea here. And so, Bruno, we'll be here until what, 3:30?
Yeah, 3:30.
We're here until 3:30, but if you need to leave or whatever, you know, it's okay. So that's our plan. And so we don't have a super strict structure. We want to make it more open, freestyle, informal discussion. And also, however, to give us a bit of structure, we thought it would be nice to go through each section of the book. And do you guys have a book? Do you guys have a book handy? All right. Anyway, if you do, that would be great. And also, another handy sort of de facto handout could be the teacher's book, right? And so what I've done is, just in case you don't have it on hand, I will send you the link to that in the chat. There's a free PDF. Okay.
Yeah, I'll run get my copy.
You can go get it if you want to look at the print one, or you can just I've just sent you the PDF. You can click on that. It's the color version. And so I thought there's a section of that where it talks about how do I teach the nani nani, and it goes through each part of a unit of a book. And so what I thought we could just start off, I could introduce the part and give a very brief, like, what is it all about and why is it there? And then kind of just open it up for discussion, like, how do you teach this part, or what do you do when you get to this part of the book? And maybe you just skip it. That would be useful to know too. Or maybe this is like the key part of your lesson, or maybe you have some special activity or something, a way of dealing with it or approaching it, and just kind of open it up and just talk about this section. And then when we feel ready, we can just move on and go through it like that. Okay. At the end, for the speaking time section, I have a recording. I figured out a way of making student recordings and sharing the recordings easily. So towards the end, I'd like to talk about that because it worked. I tried it out this past week and it worked really well, and I'd like to explain how I did that. Okay. E. All right. So Bruno, anything to add before we dive into it?
No, let's dive into it.
Let's dive into it. All right. Okay, hold on a sec. I'm gonna download this thing first. Hold on a sec. So I don't need to share my screen, do I?
Nah.
No, just you guys got it, right? Okay, so we're on the teacher's book. I'm looking now on the page 6, so the preview manga part. Okay,
yeah.
So
Jerry, I think if you do share your screen, it might be better for example, if someone watches the workshop later on, and we upload it.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I'll just do that. Hold on a sec. Am I a host? Can I do this, Bruno?
Your co-host, yes.
Co-host. Okay. So I will share my screen. Okay. All right. Can you guys see?
Yes.
Can you see the teacher's book there? Okay. All right. So this is the section of the teacher's book called "How Do I Teach the Nani Nani?" And it just there's a page or two for each section. So the first one is what we call the preview manga. All right. So as you can see here, it's just a short manga, and the basic idea is to introduce the main point of a lesson. It's a common thing for many textbooks to say, today's class we will cover 3 points or whatever. And so this is our version of that, and it's done in kind of an interactive way. The idea is to help students know what's going to happen in the lesson and it helps you get the lesson going in a student-centered manner. And it kind of gives you a chance to review a little bit. So basically, when I go through this, it doesn't take long. I just tell students to, in a pair, to read the Japanese once and then read the English twice, changing parts. And then after they do that, then I just, maybe I'll go over a couple of points and pick it up from the dialogue.
And Jerry, so you mean students will do this by pairs?
Yeah. And in Zoom, I've been just give them a, pardon?
They will first read the whole dialogue. I mean, it's a short dialogue, but in Japanese.
Well, yeah, they just read the like the directions say here. They read the Japanese once, so they get an idea of what's coming, and then they read the English twice, and that's the generic way of doing it. But I would expect some teachers would maybe just focus on the English, or maybe they skip this, or I don't know what. So, but to me, it's a nice way of getting the class started in an interactive way. Okay. And also for review, like when I start a lesson, I usually don't start with a new material. I spend a while, half an hour maybe, reviewing previously taught material. And in that situation, the preview manga comes in handy as a quick warm up. Okay, we're going to warm up by reviewing part 1. Go back and read the preview manga. And if you've covered 2 parts, then you can have them read the preview mangas consecutively, right? So page 16, preview manga, page 20, read it all together in one, and they do it once each way. You don't need the Japanese, you already done that. Just ready to go. And it's a quick reminder of the content. It gets their mind back into the flow of what we're going to do. So it's not meant to be a long thing, just as an interactive opener. So any comments? Like, what do you guys do? Do you guys?
Well, I did it once. I mean, I just started, like I said before, I'm in like week 3, and we were doing other kind of self-introductions and everything, and I just started into the textbook last week. But it seems kind of corny to ask them to do it in Japanese, and I can't see the reaction when I say, go into your rooms and say this in Japanese. Hi, how are you? But fine. Do you ever get that reaction from your students?
No, never. No, not in my case. I find that the Japanese calms them down. That once they know what's going, they're not afraid of the English so much. So that the Japanese is like, just especially for the real target audience of the book, which is, your freshman English, science majors who are only taking the class because they have to.
Right.
For those type of students, the Japanese really calms them down, and it helps them stay focused. Whereas if it was only English, some of them would feel more stressed out. But that's I recognize this is a case-by-case thing, and different teachers have different feelings about the use of Japanese.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't have them read in Japanese, not because I think using Japanese in the class is bad. I think it's pretty good actually in many cases, but rather because it feels a bit embarrassing or something.
Really?
I guess that depends on the way you feel about it.
You frame it, maybe.
The way the teacher feels about it, then the teacher will project something, and then people will be quite okay or embarrassed on the other hand.
Okay, well, I think it's totally fine because, either way, you don't have to mention it. It's there. They can read it, So you don't have to focus on that. And I would say maybe it would depend on the class. Like if they're a little bit higher level learners, then of course, maybe you don't need to mention it at all. It's just there.
I've been having a bit of trouble with the Zoom rooms in that for this short of a preview, while in the class, I have them sit face to face and practice that way.
Yeah.
If I put them in the Zoom room, it takes a long time to get into the room and out of the room for such a short exercise.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm having trouble with that aspect.
So what I've done, I've run into that as well. And so what I've done is that I would call on 2 students, and I have done this, and it kind of works. Hi, Taro and Keita. Taro, you read this part. Keita, you read that part. Please go ahead.
Yeah, because I've doing that.
Yeah, that kind of works. That's a much more timely approach.
Yeah, we're not there yet, but I do that with the guided speaking practice.
Mm-hmm.
And they do it with me first, and then I have Taro and Hana do it together, and then after everybody understands, then I put them in the breakout room, because that's a long chunk of time.
Yeah, that works. Yeah, that works. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, until you get really good at flipping between the rooms and everything like that. Yeah, one thing, Rebecca, when you do the breakout room, do you have the setting with the countdown? Like,
yeah.
I've eliminated that. Like, I don't have any countdown. So when the time is over, and boom, they're back.
Oh, wow.
That makes it a little more snappy.
Okay, I didn't know about that option. Yeah.
You can go in the settings and remove that countdown.
Oh, all right.
So that you don't have to it'll save you a minute, which actually a minute is actually a long time when you're in the flow of the lesson. You want to keep things moving and maintain some pace. That's important. Yeah. All right. So anyone else? Any other comments? So there you go. I guess the review option, like I always try to make a point of like reviewing. Notice Jack's answer here, how he adds this little piece of extra information. This is the plus alpha. Okay, everyone, what's the implicit question? Okay, yes, why? So you're always trying to review the golden rules. It's like that's the whole essence of the entire approach is training them to learn new language habits of adding longer answers and then being more active in conversation via Golden Rule 3. So those two are really key, right? So this is a good chance to kind of just highlight that and quickly review it really fast. So, okay, E, all right. Okay, model sentences. This is pretty standard, right? I guess there could be some workflow things we could talk about, like how do you guys play the audio? When I do it, I'm usually sharing this screen, like if I have the slide or so they know where I'm at, and then I open up in another window. I have the website, the CIC website, and I play the audio directly from there. I'm also, I send the students a link to the website, to the page that we're on, and so they can follow along because there's usually some script and things like that.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes I copy and paste, like if there's, like you have you notice on the recording, they often have like a minute-long Japanese usage and grammar teacher talk little nugget of information, right? I take that, I copy that from the website, and I paste it into the chat so that as the audio is playing, that they can see it there. So I find that that's a nice.
You mean the tape script you put in there?
Yeah, you can just copy that, like like I can show you guys. Yeah, let me show you. So if we go to the website, so we're at the student site. So let's say, okay, we're doing Unit 3, Part 3. Hold on, let me share the screen.
Yeah, your screen, please.
Okay, so we're on, for example, Unit 3, Part 3, and we're doing the model sentences from page 50. And maybe they're going to hear this, but I can copy it, and then I can send it into the chat, like where's that chat? Here we go. So I just paste it right in like that, and then everyone, as the recording is playing, they can then see it. So if you have the recording,
like to live in a medium size を使うこともできます。
so like this. So like
but
that.
I cannot see it.
City like Hiroshima の medium sized の代わりに rich size を使うこともできます。
So you can see, so they're listening to that, but they're also reading it. I find that's helpful for some students.
But I'm on the tablet now. I can't see both. I only see the.
You see the website, right?
The
The
website.
shared site.
Okay.
I don't
is there a way
see
you can access your chat, the chat thing?
Oh, okay. I see it now. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's a little trick that I use.
Could you put the website link in the chat?
Yep. So that's another thing I do. I put the website link in the chat like that. Okay, everyone, now we're going to be covering the audio. We're going to go through the model sentences, and I'll play the recordings from the website. If you would like to follow along, here's the link to the website page, and you can see the script. And if you don't have that, then I'll paste in the text here or whatever, like that. This also really works well. We'll cover that in the sounding natural note, but you can also copy this and just paste it right into the chat like that, and it also students can see it.
Oh, okay.
So they're seeing it on the share screen and in the chat?
They're seeing it in the chat.
So you're not sharing the
screen? Well, no. Well, it depends. They could see it on the shared screen if I'm sharing this page, but usually I'm sharing the screen to the book.
The textbook.
The textbook, right? Because Alma made those slides, right?
Yes.
So if you're sharing that screen, and then you still want them to access the information from the website, then the chat is one way to deal with that, you see. So that works pretty well. But of course, if you're not showing the book, you can show the website, right? That would work, and then you don't have to deal with the chat thing, right? So it's just
between, if you have the flip book, and the flip book is on your browser, is on your browser too. So you just click on the different tab of your browser, and it's easy to switch between the two.
That's right. Yep. Okay, so that is that. So let me go back to the. Yeah, Bruno, you want to say something?
Yeah, I'd like to just show in the forms, the Google Forms we've made to include all the content of the book.
Oh.
You can see this, yeah?
Yeah.
So this is a Google Form. There is one for each part. So you need part 1, part 2, part 3, etc. And what the way to get students to work on the toolboxes is pretty basic, but it's to ask them to write 2 answers from the toolbox. They choose any 2 possibilities they want and just type them.
Oh, okay.
So it's a good way to just practice combinations, right? Because when you go through variation vocabulary, you're presenting a pattern, and the idea is that the pattern is just a loose structure that by changing key words, then you can therefore customize whatever you want to say, right? So this would be practice for actually doing that, and this would be really good for really lower level students who would have trouble.
So you ask them to go through and fill this out, and then what?
And then send it, and it's just a way of.
This is basically a questionnaire, right? So this is like a Google.
Just a class activity, basically. In my opinion, it's a good way to slow down the intakes of the toolbox, because it's quite easy to slide over it. You know, it's like I know, and actually not focusing the details. So it's just one thing, and it doesn't. I'm not sure it needs to be done during class time or after class time.
Yeah, this would be a good follow-up after class for them to all fill out and send back.
Yeah, it could also be done before.
As a preview,
like students can study it ahead of time so that they would be prepared. And then you
force them to look at the stuff before we do it.
Yeah, and then you wouldn't need to spend as much time in class going over this stuff. Do more speaking. Okay.
Do you have these lovely forms available for sharing?
Oh yes, they are absolutely available, and they were made for you. And the only thing that needs to be kept in mind is very important. So we'll be sharing the whole folder like this. Until now we've been sharing slideshows.
Right.
This is all the slideshows. And when we share slideshows, we will include your Gmail address in this way. and then everybody has a reading right. Like they can access the slides to not modify them, but to read them.
Right.
But the key difference with forms is that it's not possible to read a form. You need to modify it to make it your own and send it to your students.
Mm-hmm.
You have to copy it, make a copy, and then you can use it. Yeah.
Right. Make a copy and make a copy for several classes.
I was coming up for here. Everybody will have editing rights. So when you open a new form like this, immediately the first step is to make a copy. Put it in the right folder for your class so that you can track it later, track the replies from students easily.
The file name is important then. You want to make sure, like, what is it? And then for what class is it? So I would put a class code.
Absolutely. I mean, personally, I think I would make first a generic copy like this.
Right. And then class is a copy of a copy. Right.
Make a copy of the copy and then change the name of the file to Thursday 2nd, Thursday 3rd, and this kind of extensions.
One thing was, when you hit responses up at the top,
yes,
there's so it says accepting responses, and I did so this past week in the getting started section, I sent them all to the for like 20 minutes. I said let's get started. I sent them to the site, and I was like, go through those the Quizlet flip things for the what do you call them, the my name is Hiroki and all that kind of stuff. I prefer it to be called, and I gave them a quiz based exactly on the test that you have in the flip things, just to confirm that they had gone and seen them. And I was like, I may be giving you these kind of quizzes in the future. And then after that class, I closed it out because I only wanted them to be working on it for 10 minutes. I went and copied it for my next class, and they couldn't access it because I had closed out access. And when I made the copy, it didn't revert. It was still closed to access. And so I wasted a lot of time there. But yeah, you gotta be careful when you copy that everything is copied exactly as it is right there. So before you start using it, it's a good idea to make a copy.
As it is indeed, and there is no back button on the forms, I noticed. So
right.
Once in a form we inputted the correct answer, to be able to have automatic marking, and then I unchecked that, and then I checked it back after. It was just to show someone how it works, and it was all gone. So you have to be really careful.
Yeah.
That's a good advice, Bruno, that when you get the copy from Alma for, say, you want to use these, just copy everything and then put it in a different folder.
Yeah.
So then that's your base. And then now when you use them for your classes, those are your masters, and then you don't use the masters in your class. You make a copy for each class. So you have your own set of master files on your computer, and then you'd be making a copy for each class if needed.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Sure.
Couldn't hear well when you first started talking because I still have bad audio and what are we asking for if we ask Alma for this that you're sharing?
The Google Forms of CIC.
Okay.
And you can ask me right now. We are such a small group that that can be done.
I'm asking. This is Becky.
Me too.
Okay, I'm pretty sure we have your Gmail addresses, so I can do this. It will take a minute later, no problem. And we don't have for people who might be watching this later. We don't have exactly a streamlined procedure for this. I was a bit anxious, I must say, because I know that if people are not careful, there is going to be a lot of confusion if the base forms are modified, So I haven't set up a generic procedure to get this, and it would be nice if people just email us, and in return we'll do the sharing. It's no problem.
If we change something on ours, though, it's not going to change yours, right?
No. If it's a copy, it's no problem.
You have to make a copy first. Otherwise,
a copy first. And I would strongly advise.
But not his.
I would strongly advise again to make one generic copy that you keep for always, and then from that copy make one copy per class to distribute it to specific classes, because that is better to have in one specific copy all the answers of the students of that specific class. And also you should be aware that if you change the location of a form, even without changing the content, but if you change the location of a form inside of your drive, the URL of that form will change. So that's not going to be, I mean, once you distribute it, you distribute it to a class of students, it's better not to change anything.
And don't move it around. So this whole system requires a bit of file management organization.
Yeah.
And
That's good to know.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything organized in any way, and I moved things and then they disappeared and I couldn't find them again.
Yeah, I'm still completely lost.
It's a bit disconcerting in the beginning. I'm a long-time user of the Google Docs and the Google Sheets and Slides also. And that is like very straightforward. You share it with people and there's like no problem. But the forms are an altogether different kind of object, because they are designed to get responses from people you send them to. So the logic is pretty different, but you can get used to it quite quickly actually.
So basically, just to summarize, when you get the forms, first thing to do is make a copy, and that's your master copy. And then don't touch, put those in a nice safe spot, all right? And then when you want to make a survey for your class, or you want to use it in a class, you go back and you make a copy of the relevant form, and then make it class specific by renaming it, and put that in its own place, and then just keep that organized, and you should be okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe Jerry, it's not all the same contents, but I could go through these forms to just show the type of contents we have included. It's not special, but then it's really good. So there are sounding natural notes. This is a bit special, but we try to create questions to reflect these contents. But it's not that often that there is a sounding natural note activity in the forms. The how about you is very straightforward. It's just reply here, just reply to these questions. So there is one field per question. And the listening practice, it's in the form of a little video. So let me show you what it looks like from the student point of view. It's on YouTube.
Oh.
It's within the
So, where are you from? I'm from Chicago, but now I live here in Tokyo.
Oops. And that's it. And they should pause. And actually, it's written here, pause when it's. And then
with some instructions in Japanese. Cool.
There are numbers here already, like 1, 2, 3, etc. They were already put in the book, so this is where they should write their response. And this section only has like the correct answer is inputted, and automatic marking is possible can work, you know, if you don't uncheck that one. Like for example,
wow, that's fantastic.
Here, the right answer is written here. It's campus. It's 1 point. If they write practice in this way, they will get 1 point here.
Awesome.
Wow. And that's it.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Bruno. So we head back to our, where were we? We're in the, let me go back over. Okay, hold on a second.
You were on page 7 of the teacher's book.
That's right. I'm going to head back there now. Hold on a sec. All right. Okay, so on page, what more could I say here? So the model sentences, I usually, it depends on the class. For higher level classes, I find that I don't need to spend so much time on them. So how deep you go into it depends on the level of your class, I bet. You know, you could spend a lot of time on it, or you could spend just a little and show, right? It kind of depends, right? Okay, next one, page 8. So the vary your questions. This part is, we included this because we found that, you know, there's 2 basic forms to every question. You can answer it in an open manner, beginning with the WH question word, or you can actually just, you know, ask in a closed yes or no manner, right? So both are actually useful in conversation. And since they're basically the same question, why not learn them at the same time? And that adds to the student's ability to talk, right? So for example, the way I put it, like you can open a conversation topic with an open form. So where are you from, right? And then you can then, well, I'm from Tochigi Prefecture. Oh, really? So are you from Doko Doko, you know? So you can use the closed form as a follow-up. So that's how I often present it. And when I go through it, and I'm doing this online, you can actually get student. I don't spend much time on this, but you can ask students to provide a closed or open form. Then you can do a dictation, or if time is short, you can just give them something and then go over a few alternatives, right? Because there's not only ever just one particular answer, and just kind of go over it quickly. All right, so that's how I deal with that. How about you guys? What do you do when you get to this point?
Sometimes I switch the how about you and the vary your question, because you usually have the vary your question in that chat.
Mm-hmm.
So I have the students, I do a different, well now I don't because it's online, but I do a different exercise where I have them analyze a conversation so they can look for the conversation strategies.
Yes, that's very good. I like that
So
one.
this is kind of the mini where I say, okay, look for the closed question.
Oh, right. Oh, that's a really good idea.
Copy that into the space above.
Mm-hmm.
If that matches easily.
Ooh,
Then that
good.
them kind of look outside of just this little space, see how it works.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a really good idea. Because then you're kind of connecting it to the other content, and it's a noticing activity, right? Anytime you can get students to notice something, you're learning, right? Yeah, I like that. Yeah, very good.
And you said this is how you proceed in a normal class, but were you able to do this way online?
Online, I'm not quite there yet with the students. So first I just did the dictation style, Unit 1 dictation style. And now we're finishing Unit 2. They're going to do their test, their conversation test next week. And then when I do Unit 3, I'll start having point out this and switch so that they're looking at the bigger picture.
Yeah, sounds good. That's very good. Yeah. So again, it's a kind of a way to like what we're doing is trying to provide students with a rough outline of a conversation. So every unit is based on a theme, but it's a wide theme, and there are lots of conversations that can be had within the theme, like music or hometowns or whatever. Every unit has a large theme. Each part breaks it down into a smaller one, and we provide a few questions to get students going on that. But there always is a need for more, right? Like, it's not to be thought of as like only this, right? So the how about you is kind of a way of, it's like a little door where you can include a little bit of extra, right? So it's very nice. Okay, especially if you look at it in terms of a follow-up question, right? So it can be good, or even an implicit question, right? So the line between follow-up and implicit, it's almost the same thing. Like a follow-up question is just an implicit question spoken aloud, right? So there's that. Okay, and then the next one, the how about you section, for me, this has been, as I've been teaching this book over the last 5 years or so, I found that this, to me, is a really key point in a lesson, right, in terms of the overall flow. So there's sort of like at the beginning, you know, you have your introduction, and then you're doing the typical language instruction, you know, at the sentence level and vocabulary level. And now we're trying to like open it up where people can now think about what are my own answers, right? So research has shown that if students have a little bit of time to think about what their answers are and personalize the content, then they're able to more smoothly communicate. So we wanted to build that kind of preparation time for personal communication into the flow of the lesson. So that's why we included this how about you section here. And then there's a little model dialogue, which I just sort of, like when we made the book, we thought it would be nice just to demonstrate, you know, how is the open and the closed forms in actual dialogue, you know. But as I've come to teach it, I found that this is actually a really important part of the lesson, and then I've actually used these to help students practice, right?
The model sentences?
Yeah, the how about you model dialogue. So
right.
When I do the how about you, like I give them a minute to think about it. Actually, online, what I do is I'll just talk about what my model answers would be, to give them a few seconds to think of their answer. Then I go through and I have, maybe I'll call on a pair of students to read the example aloud, all right, in Zoom, right? So we do that. And then I'll highlight the phrases that are in bold, and I'll say, okay, now what I'd like you guys to do is to put your own answers into these slots, okay? And try to come up with a little more personalized version of this exchange. And then, you know, then I say, okay, we have A, B, A, B. There's 4 turns. Now then do it again, B, A, B, A. And that is one set. Okay, that's one set. And then I say, okay, then do it again, another set. And then I say, then do it a third time, do it a third time. So they're doing this actually 3 times both ways. And then I'll put them in a breakout room, give them a couple minutes to do this, right? And so that the idea is to provide just basic repetition on a very good exchange. And I've taken care to rewrite these so that the students are able to review and utilize the golden rules. And I point out, like, notice how you're giving the extra information here. And Bruno, are you sharing your screen?
I just wanted to show what you were talking about, but
well, I should share my screen then.
yeah, you could do that. Yeah.
Okay, let me do that. Okay, that'll be easier.
Okay, so I'm sharing my.
Okay, so I will hold on a sec. Access the book here. Okay. Okay, everyone, do you have your books?
Yes.
Yeah.
Page 47, page 47. Okay, I'll just go through an example here. Okay, so I've been doing unit 3 recently. I can talk about this. So like I said, like if you look at the model dialogue, I rewrote this a bit to showcase the golden rules a little bit better. And so, do you like living in Doko Doko? Yes, it's great. So they have to give an overall opinion, and then they have to say why. They have to give a reason why it's great. So this is the plus alpha. This is the implicit question answering why is it great, okay? So then you have to give a reason, and you know, there are, that's a little bit of grammar there. And then the next one, I see. So the next turn, the student has to reply with a reaction expression. And then maybe so, transition. They need to include the transition, and then they can ask the follow-up question.
And
then just kind of go through it like that.
Shall I share my screen and show what you're?
Hold on a sec. I have to, let me find the PDF. It's on my computer. Hold on a second. Guys, take a look at that.
The flip book would work well, you know. I mean,
I don't use the flip book, Bruno. I don't have the flip book.
How about the slideshow?
Hold on a sec. Okay, here, let me share it here. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
I see it.
Okay, so like for example on, where am I talking about? Here, okay. So if you see this, you can see that, right? So I'll just go through it and I'll highlight it and just talk it over. And then basically they have to practice this. And when they are in the breakout room, they need to change these points, right? In fact, they could also change the expression. There's different things that they could change, right? So here they need to use a thinking sound, right? They don't have to say, too bad, but they could say something similar. Here they need to say, like, again, it's kind of a thinking sound, right? That kind of thing. So basically they're practicing here a 7-turn dialogue that's in a form that is very interactive and that utilizes all the things we're trying to teach them, right? The conversation strategies, the golden rules, and whatnot, and all the vocabulary in the unit, right? And so just getting them in a breakout room and having them just simply not changing it too much, but keeping it roughly similar. Doesn't have to be exactly the same. Kind of helps them learn good form. Okay, and so if they do a repetition 3 times, I find is a magic number, right? And then after that, then you can bring it back. So maybe 3 minutes to go through it 3 times. That could work. If they finish early, I tell them to keep practicing until time is over. Okay, and that's how I've been doing this. So I've been finding that for low-level students, this step is really beneficial. Okay, it's very beneficial because they get to see how the conversation flows, and they get to practice maybe for the first time talking about their own particular personalized answers, right? So this is sort of a setup for a longer extended conversation. So I found that these are actually very important. Okay. Any other comments about the how about you?
One thing about the how about you that is I try to use to the advantage when this how about you pattern does not fit what they want to say.
Yeah.
That I tell them that sometimes that's what happens.
Yeah.
And so just say what is you naturally want to say. And if you don't know what to say, ask me. So that helps them with asking the teacher.
Yes,
and
it does.
Feel free that they don't have to just stay to the book and say the right answer.
I agree, yeah.
So I tell them don't get nervous or panic if what they want to say doesn't match 100%.
Yes.
So I think that really helps. They have some frame and they have some structure,
yeah.
But they realize that the language is living and they have to find a new way to express themselves.
That's such an important point because language is living, right? And so when you're writing a textbook, how do you make it live, right? You can just provide the vocabulary and it's up to the teachers to bring it to life. So that's why I think that's really a great point. Yeah, remind students of that. It's really important. Yeah, nice. All right. Okay, shall we move on? Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, here. Okay, so now we're at the sounding natural notes. Okay, so these are basically, this is pragmatics. Are you guys familiar with pragmatics? All right, so this is the pragmatics of English, where we're looking at natural talk and providing advice, and it's often connected to either a golden rule or the conversation strategy. And you can see at the bottom in the lower right corner, we have a link to the whatever golden rule or strategy this covers. So this would be a good chance. They're basically review. It's a, and we try to link it up so that you know, what does the conversation that we're learning call for, right? And so we're trying to always connect and link to make content that's essential in the book integrated within every unit. So that's what these notes are for. And so basically it's pretty simple. In Zoom, you just play it. You can have students give them the web page so they can read the script of the audio if they want, or like I showed you before, or you can paste it in like I showed you before. All right. And that's basically it. It's just basically information, right? Right. So, and then, you know, then just go with it. Whatever, if you want to spend more time on it, you can, or it could just be a quick thing. Sometimes if I'm pressed for time or I have another longer activity I want to do, I might skip it even, you know, it depends. You know, you have to make it's just there. It's information. If you feel it's valuable, you can cover it. What do you guys think? Yeah, Madeline.
The conversation strategies that are introduced at different points, do you introduce those as they come up in the textbook, or do you go over those in the beginning?
That's an excellent question. Here's what I do. If you look at the golden rules section,
yep,
at the very beginning of the book, and so I'm in my textbook now. The golden rules is so if you take a look at golden rule number 1, which is on page 10 and 11.
Yep.
Okay. Now it ends on we couldn't fit it in, but at the very top of page 12, there is a task to practice golden rule 1. And in order to do that, what students have to do is look at the phrases. Oh, man, I gotta turn off this silly background.
The conversation strategy.
Yeah, they have to go through the strategies to find out what phrases. So Mayu on page 11, she says, "Sorry, I don't understand freshman." What strategy is that?
Yeah,
Students
the
have to
strategies
find
weren't in the flip books. I mean,
right. Really?
and so I wasn't.
Bruno,
So
there you go.
I have about
Feedback.
2/3 of my students have the textbook now, and so from next week, I'm hoping they'll all have it. But when we were doing the golden rules last week, or I was giving them homework, and it was like, and oh no, you can't see the conversation strategies in the flip book. And the June one, I think, gave up to unit 6
Okay.
that I got, but no conversation strategy.
That's something to think about, Bruno, because that's built into the beginning. So you kind of need to have those appendices there.
But that he offers for what, complementary use. So I've been using them myself, and I can show them on the screen, but the students have not been able to use them by themselves. Bruno, I can give those
You have those.
URL to the students, right?
The URL of
For the for the golden rules, or the conversation strategies.
the URL to what exactly?
If I want to give just the flip book of the conversation strategies only URL to the students, is that possible?
Actually, the flip books is okay to share any of them with students, but I'm just not sure that there is a flip book for the conversation strategies.
Oh, maybe I just made that into a PDF then, and I got confused as to where it came from.
Yeah, I haven't seen the conversation strategies anywhere in a flip book
Oh, okay.
or PDF.
My own PDF for that.
No, that's right. They are. I'm looking at the page now, and they are not there. So.
Oh, okay.
And in the online site, there's only the Quizlet things, the Quizlet for the
right,
the phrase itself.
For conversation strategies. I was thinking, oh, maybe it's online, and I went searching there.
Oh.
Okay. So we'll make the flip book sometime next week for conversation strategies. Sorry, it's just an oversight.
No.
And also, Bruno, if you're as long as you're on it, the guided role play as well, because this is a great activity for any time. It's like I was going to talk about it later today, but this is also a really useful part of the book as well.
Okay, sure.
So anyway, so to answer your question, so I introduced the golden rules if I were a real face-to-face class. I would be doing it near in the first or second lesson.
Right.
Introduce it as part of the process of going through Golden Rule 1. That's when they're first introduced. And then after that, they're reviewed constantly when they come up in the sounding natural notes. So that's the flow there. Yeah. Yeah, and I noticed that with higher level learners, a lot of students, a common thing I've seen is that they may know the strategy, but maybe the variety of phrases they use is very limited. They always say,
Right.
"Oh, really? Oh, really? Oh, really?
Exactly.
Oh,
Exactly.
really?" You know?
Yeah.
So the goal there, okay, you know the strategy, but let's try a couple of different expressions.
Right.
Yeah.
Increase the repertoire. Increase the repertoire.
So for higher levels, for lower level students, it's just the idea of this is the goal, right? Can you even do it? And then for a higher level student would be variety and increasing repertoire. Yeah. So that's that, right? Okay, so very good, very good. Okay, now next we're back talking about the guided speaking practice. So what's this about? Well, we really like this idea of introducing vocabulary in not just as a list of random items, but in context of the conversation we're trying to have. So the idea here, we're trying to do several things at once with this exercise. We're providing a simple model of how the model sentences flow together, and we're providing more vocabulary input. So this is a way of introducing different ideas for what people could say. So for me, this is basically, well, you can use it in different ways. There is an audio track. So you play the audio and just have them listen, maybe the first time. Then the second time, they can do maybe 2 or 3 rounds of shadowing practice. Have you guys tried that? You know, shadowing is where you listen to a recording in one ear and then you speak it almost simultaneously, so that you're practicing listening and fluency and speed and pace at the same time. This is a technique that actors often use or people use to pick up speed and fluency and training of the ear. You can do it with any source audio, but this is perfect for here. So they shadow it a few times, and then I put them in a breakout room and I tell them to read it 4 times or 5 times, however many rows they are. The first time you have to go slow and explain it, but they pick it up fast and they know how to substitute the words. And it's a great way. And then I encourage students to use these expressions that fit what they want to say. So it's a vocabulary exercise as well, right? So how about you guys? Any thoughts on this exercise?
I found when I was in the classroom, I would have them stand up and do it as pairs, and then when finished, sit down so I know when everybody's finished.
That's a great technique, yeah.
But my classroom was kind of tight, so I couldn't really wander around to hear people. And a few students complained that other people in the back of the room were just kind of moving their mouth and acting like they were doing it and sit down as they could. So actually, I like the Zoom.
It forces them to do it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Good. Okay. So, I also find that these are useful for a quick review. If you want to do I generally spend in a 90-minute lesson, my first half an hour is review. And I often have the students reread the guided speaking practices as a review, okay? And this is, it's good for students who have already covered it, but it's also really good for students who missed last week's lesson. They can kind of get a quick, they can get up to speed quickly, right? Based on what you did before. So it works well, right? And again, I'm always pointing out the golden rules. What's the implicit question here, and notice how this is happening and that's happening. Notice how this person answered their own question. That's golden rule 3, and that kind of thing, right? So you're always pointing that stuff out. Okay, doesn't take too long though. Okay, yeah, and I do find some students find it a little tedious, right? Because they're repeating again and again. But I try to make a virtue of that, and it's like students need repetitive practice. It's like I say all the time. We're learning a skill here. I'm not teaching you information about something. I'm teaching how to do something.
Mhm.
So you got to practice and you got to just repeat. And the idea is to just do it. And then that takes work, and we're working.
Yeah.
Thank you for your hard effort, you know, and I just try to just keep it positive, and
Right.
they get that, right? They do realize that.
Trying to shoot baskets again and again and again. It's just shoot baskets.
Yes. There you go.
Parrot,
Or
their
play
sport.
scales on the piano, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I always do it.
Right. Music.
You practice piano every day. You practice music every day. You need to
Right.
practice English every
Anything
day.
you want to do, you got to do it.
Yep.
Yeah. And sometimes when you get a jaded students, like a class with like, I know that, yeah, it's too easy for me. That's where the immediate method type of testing comes in handy in the beginning, because you can make them realize that they may have understood something, but they are not able to use it in real time. So that's
right.
some little click for some people.
Yeah.
Beyond the explanation that you just gave.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between reading it and understanding it and being able to actually say it in a conversation.
There you go.
Yeah.
Also listening, let me go on to that one. So the listening is well, you know, it's a very simple exercise. You just listen to something and you fill in the missing words. That's kind of, there's that, but more than that, this listening is a model for students of how they can put together the whole unit. That's why we have it always in part 3 of a unit, because this is a model of the entire unit. In not completely. We don't have. You should have seen the first drafts. They're like a page and a half long. I wrote, and Bruno's like, "No, we got to cut it down," you know. So remember that, Bruno? Yeah. So I had some really long ones because I wanted to demonstrate the whole unit totally, right? But it does capture the gist of a conversation within the theme of the unit, right? And this is the model. And so I don't just use it as listening, although it is that. It's also a review exercise of the key vocabulary and the golden rules and the strategies. And there you can do various things with it. So I like that there's 3 different accents. I like spending some time on noticing differences between British, English, and Australian dialects, right? That's really cool sometimes. I also like, I like to have students sort of do the read, look, speak exercise. Now this is for a face-to-face class, but you know this technique, it's what people in drama do. It's like you stand up and you're holding your script in your hand, but when you speak, you don't look at the script. You have to look at your partner.
Right.
So you can just read a line and then you memorize it and you look at your partner and then you speak it. Okay. So you could do this in Zoom, but of course you can't really monitor it. You can't really monitor it, and it's tough to enforce, but it's, you know, something you could try. Read, look, speak. Read, look, speak, right? And that way you're separating the reading from the speaking, because if you only read it, it just doesn't kind of stick so well. But if you stop and then you actually talk to a person, and then it actually sticks a little bit more. So, and they're getting the whole flow, all this vocabulary, and it's nice, and it's a good model. And that sets up the final thing, the speaking tasks, right? So that's why we placed it here. Have you guys been using the listening at all? Do you have any experience with this, or any thoughts?
Again, I'm starting to use it from next week. The text.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right.
I haven't really gotten into it yet.
I said before, I have an exercise which I call konnan, conversation analysis.
Oh.
And I use this conversation before they listen, and I write it out, and their homework is find, and I outline 3 or 4 of the conversation strategies that are in here. They have to locate them and label the conversation. And so I do that for points, and also to force them to look at the different conversation strategies and understand what they are and how they work, how they fit in the conversation. And I found that was very helpful. one of the things I like about this approach, or what I've been able to develop, is I think I got it from your testing book, Jerry, where on the bottom of the sheet, I never say anything about English only using this textbook. But on the test, it just has one space that says minus 1 point each time you speak Japanese. But I never say anything. And then when they get their results back, they see, oh, I got minus 5 points. Why? And then, oh no, I spoke Japanese 5 times. And then without saying anything, I never say anything, then they can use this listening practice as a way to realize, oh, so this is how I do. Instead of saying eto, I should say this. So little by little, it seems to be a really good motivational method without even saying anything.
Yeah, that's the power of assessment. That's why we're so big on it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Very good. That's called negative marking.
Yeah.
And it's a really strong spice. So when you're making your testing soup, you only want to put a little dash of that negative marking spice in there, because you put a little too much and it's pretty intense.
I mark down for katakana pronunciation.
Okay.
Because you get lots of people saying, I like to go to the. And I'm thinking, but you guys know how to talk, you know how to talk correctly. They know how to not say it like that. So I mark them down, especially the girls. All the girls are doing it.
It's true. It's true. Sometimes I think it's not knowing how to say it properly. It's more like an affectation or something.
Yep.
Or a habit, a kind of unconscious habit. Yeah. So
but once I start,
go ahead.
No, once I start marking down for it, it disappears.
Yes. Yeah. Totally.
The carrot and the stick, it really works well.
Mostly carrots and a little stick. Very cool.
If I'm wondering, go ahead. Well, no, you're going to get there, I'm sure. Go ahead.
Okay, well, we got 20 minutes left, so I wanted to cover the speaking time section, which is kind of like, so we've done all this, like the lesson is designed to start off really simple and small and present language that students should already know or should have already encountered, and then it's sort of an activation process, little by little. The how about you dialogues are like a mini conversation, and it sort of builds up to something longer. And so this is the part where we've provided a few standard generic speaking activities, but that we're really kind of counting on teachers to pull out their bag of tools, and to do what they've come to do when it comes time to getting their students to talk, right? So a textbook has to follow a careful path. Like if you follow exactly these steps, you're taking away the agency of the teacher. But if it's too loose, then a lot of teachers, well, why am I bothering with a textbook? You know what I mean? So it's you have to kind of balance it out. And so the speaking time is sort of like, now it's your time, and here is a few suggestions to get you started. Like we have this memorize and perform, that's a standard thing. Like, and they can co-create a dialogue, and we showed you guys on Google Docs how that can be done. In Zoom now. And what's another one? The interview and report. That's your, pretty basic one where you have someone interview someone, and then they switch partners, and then they talk about what the other person said. That's a pretty standard one. You can do that in Zoom, but you'd have to switch manage the groups a little bit there. You'd have to do it maybe manually, which would be a little tricky, but that could be done. Or just free conversation, okay? Just 3 minutes, talk about the questions on page 49, and let them go, right? I find that after a while, students get kind of tired talking about themselves all the time, because a unit takes 3 weeks, perhaps, and they've been going over it again and again and again, and so there's a little bit of a break needed, and so that's one reason why we added this role play activity. Which is designed to encourage creativity and imagination for unlocking vocabulary. And that's what I tell students, right? If you're in the real world, you don't have a textbook, you have to just wing it. And you have to be able to think creatively and make decisions quickly and improvise like a jazz musician does, right? So we have the structure, we have the character cards with basic information, and we're encouraging students to include a little bit of extra detail that they come up with from their own imaginations. And they often have a good time with that. And I encourage them to be silly, not to be too overly worried about, like if they have to talk about their hometowns and their characters from a town from Brussels and they don't know anything about Brussels, then they can, on Zoom, what I do now is I show them Google Maps. I share my, my iPhone on the screen and I show them how to use Google Maps and do a quick search for the character's hometown, and they can look at the pictures and talk about a couple of things, you know, if they want. So that's possible. And just to basically, even then though, it doesn't really matter. They can just make up whatever they want. And that's the idea.
Oui.
C'est exactement la même chose. Vraiment, honnêtement, c'est la même chose.
Oui.
C'est vrai. Je fais Google Slide parce que
French? I've heard French.
Yes, I think he's muted himself now.
Okay, interesting. Okay, all right. So yeah, so that's basically the idea there. Is just to provide a break, to give students. It's a great way to review. So if you want to review and encourage creativity and quick thinking skills, this exercise is really good. It can be a lot of fun. So role play is another standard, right? It's sort of what language teachers do. It's a tried and true technique. Okay, so we have 15 minutes. I was hoping to show you, like, one thing I found in Zoom online is that it's very difficult to monitor students. Like in the classroom, I put them in pairs. Okay, talk for 3 minutes. I can walk around and I can hear the students and see them talking. You can drop into a breakout room, but I find that when I do that, it's like suddenly, oh, sensei, you know, and they all like stiffen up, and it's sort of like my very presence sort of is too disruptive. So I've been kind of torn, like, well, what can I do? Like, I need to monitor them, but I can't just disrupt things. So I thought what I really would like is a way to record student conversation so that I could check it out. And so what I'd like to do is share with you guys, I found a really good way that it can be done in a smooth fashion. And I'd like to share it with you guys, if you don't mind, really quick here. I'm going to unshare the screen here. How do I do that? Oh, stop share. Okay, so basically, do you guys know, have you heard of a website? It's a free online recorder. It's called vocaroo.com. Maybe you haven't heard about it. I never heard about it until last week. I attended a workshop by the Untitled Chapter. I'll put the link in the chat. There it is, vocaroo.com. I'll share the screen. Okay, can you guys see my screen there? That's it, that's all it is, just this big red record button. It can't be simpler. And so to make a recording, all you do is press the red button and then talk, just like this. And when you're done, you press the red button and it stops. Okay, so now we have a recording, and you then click the save and share button, and you have a bunch of options for sharing the audio. You can share it by social media or by email. You can download it. You can get embed code. You could put it into a website, for example. You can get a QR code linked to it. But the easiest way is to simply just press this button to copy the link and then paste it. So the student can then paste it to me in the chat, okay, so that I can get the, like, I'll do it right now. Like I can.
So they open this while they're in the breakout rooms.
Yes, so I would share this link to vocaroo.com, and I tell them to save it on their, save it, or okiniiri ni tsuika, and then they can then just access it, right? And so you could just share it via the chat, but this link can be copied and then pasted somewhere.
Yeah, Jerry. So if they are going to be working by pairs, only one of the two students is going to be recording, right?
Yeah. So that's the thing. So now if you want to record a group conversation, all you need in one group, it could be a pair or 3 or 4 member group, is to have one of the students do the recording. Not everyone needs to do the recording, okay? So
it will pick up everybody speaking though?
If they are not wearing headphones, and this is something I discovered yesterday when I did this. So if a student is wearing headphones, the sound is coming out through the headphones and it's not being picked up by it's not being broadcast on the speakers.
Right.
You can't hear it. So as long as the student is not wearing the headphones, you should be able to hear the sound of the other people coming through the speakers. Okay.
Actually, Jerry, can you play the recording you just made? Because I think there was a bit of my voice or maybe someone else's voice.
To make a recording, all you do is press the red button and then talk, just like this. And when you're done, you press the red button and it stops. Okay, so let me make a new one. Okay, let's make a new one, and I'll just ask you guys. Hi, my name's Jerry. What's your name?
I'm Becky.
Hi, Becky. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Hi, my name's Jerry. What's your name?
I'm Becky.
Hi, Becky. Nice to meet you. Okay, so you can kind of hear it. It's not perfect quality or anything because the microphone is picking up from the speakers, but it's good enough, right? And so this is a very simple. And then the key is then being able to share the recording. You don't have to deal with downloading the file, renaming the file, storing the, it's simple for students. So what I've done is I created a worksheet. Here, let me go into my Google Drive. So I created a worksheet that can be used, and here, I'll share it with you guys. Let's see here. So it looks like this. So all you need is to create the Google form, right? You create a Google form and you title it however you want. For example, this is for my class on Unit 3, Part 3. The group leader only has to fill this out. So the group leader will fill out this form, put the date, put their name, and then list the name of the other students. And then what they do is here, then they just paste. Here, let me show you here. They would then paste the link like this to the recording. And so in a group of, like, hey, I have 40 members in a class, I would get maybe 4 people per group or whatever, and then I would then just get 10 forums, right? And then I would get 10 recordings, and that's it. Okay.
And what do you do with those recordings?
And so what you do is then you have them all, like, for example, you can see here, here's the form that I did with my class yesterday. You can see here, I had 15 students, and notice that I got 8 responses. That's because a few of the groups, the group leader had their headphones on.
Okay.
And when they recorded it, only their voice came through, so I asked them to record it.
Do it again.
I'm glad I did that, because now I can tell you guys, and I can save you the trouble. That's a key points. So if you look here, so I have the link, and so you can just then access it and then just listen to the recording.
Quick question, if you don't mind. I'm
sure.
wondering, do you have students who are using like only cell phones? Are they able to multitask?
What an absolute great question. So what I did before is I did a survey using a Google form on what computer device are you using. So I know ahead of time who's using a PC and who's using a mobile device. So I think it is possible to, of course it should be possible to do this with a mobile phone, but because they're only looking at one screen, I thought it would be easier for the PC users to handle the recording. So right now I'm just asking the group leader should have a computer, okay? But I think it should be possible on a phone, but I need to get better
But it might be difficult, but still should be possible.
Yes,
It might be, my classes are big enough, it's hard to remember who has a PC and who doesn't and whatever. So
in that case, yeah, just make a Google form and what kind of computer device are you using? And then you'd have a whole spreadsheet of everything right there.
Yeah, I'm not good at spreadsheets. So, but if it's possible for them to do it on the cell phone, then, and I'm not excluding them because of their device.
It's just a regular website, so it should be totally possible. Right? So here's an example. Right?
Ask, so Zoom and website at the same time. Yeah, I haven't tried that on a cell phone.
So you can hear here, this is a student talking.
No.
It's very, very weak. Okay, so, so that's another issue, technical issue, is that the person should have their sound turned up so that you can hear the other person talking. Okay. Right? So what I would recommend, if you try this, is just do a quick experiment and try it. And you have to work, you have to teach them, and then you have to figure out like these sort of technical issues. Right. One would be to remove headphones. Another one would be to increase the volume on the speakers.
Yeah.
So that's one, right? I can show you one that came out better. I think this.
So then, are you giving them feedback on this? Are you grading them on their
Well, that's the plan. That's well, right now I'm figuring out how to do it. Right. My next step is after I figure out how to do it and manage it. Then yes, then I plan on giving them feedback, because now I can hear what they're saying. Right. Right. And I can do an activity. I can have them transcribe their conversation. Right. In a Google Doc, for example, they could work together to transcribe it, and then we can have further analysis. And that can also be used for a test. Right? So now I can give them 15 minutes, okay, with your partner in a breakout room. You have 15 minutes to create a 3-minute conversation. You can do it more than once. You can, whatever you can do, work together, open book, whatever you want, just talk for 3 minutes, do your best, and then, give me the link, that's a possibility for testing now. So now I have the recording, and then go from there, and then I can assess it, right? So that's what I'm kind of excited about. What I'll be working on in the near future is trying to figure out how to manage this. Okay, so
Jerry, even if you do not actually give them feedback on it and do not actually assess it, as we talked about yesterday, a bit in the same way as Flipgrid, considering they are going to be sending it to you and to their teacher, they are going to, most cases, they are going to probably redo it 2 or 3 times just because it was not perfect, so they just do it better. And this process in itself is extremely good. It's just
accountability. They have a reason to do it. It's not just practice with nobody listening. Then why bother do it?
Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
It's also shocking to hear your own voice.
Yes, it is. It is. Well, you have to kind of calm people down about that, because it only sounds weird to you.
Yeah, but when you hear what you sound like, then you think, oh, I don't want to sound like that. Make it better.
That's true. That's a positive approach.
I wonder if you get students who are going to be reading their scripts and not doing it, having written it out and just reading it out to them.
And hopefully they read it better then focus on better pronunciation and better pace or whatever, I don't know.
I think too, for example, I'm having my conversation test next week, first conversation test. And I've been thinking of just having them wait in the waiting room, and then 2 at a time come into the Zoom room and show their camera. Because so far, none of my students turn on their camera. So I don't even know what they look like.
Really? Wow.
Except for my presentation class.
Really?
All the other classes, they don't.
Really?
And so I'll tell them they have to turn on their camera and they can perform their conversation for me. But this way, I think this way would be better for them to actively be practicing, because if they're just waiting in the waiting room, they're losing all that time that they could be practicing with their partner.
Absolutely.
So you put them in the breakout rooms, right? And then you'll go into the breakout room and test them.
So if I have everybody in a breakout room, and then I can go from breakout room to have a teacher and student face to face, and then I can kind of watch and see if they're reading or not reading, right?
Yeah. If I can respond to that, Jerry, don't stress out too much about the time. We started a bit late, so I think we can, go a bit beyond 3:30. But personally, I was teaching French, so the level compared with English is much lower. It's complete beginner or false beginner. And when we started the immediate method more than 20 years ago, it was a big discovery, and we were very excited and experimented many things. And the key word was real-time conversation, spontaneous conversation. And that's what we did for a long, long time. And then it involved a lot of wasted time during class time. So I was frustrated, and I explored more and more the prepared dialogue, which is like they write a dialogue in advance, and then they don't read it exactly, but I let them write a transcript in Japanese. And when they were performing their prepared dialogue, they were looking at the Japanese transcript to avoid wasting mental energy on what's coming next, but they were not actually looking at the French dialogue. But even if they were actually reading the dialogue, I felt that this was a pretty good way to make assessment, and a pretty good way of class activity as well, because they are really engaged into making their dialogue, writing up their dialogue by pairs. And then after, when they practice to deliver it in a smooth way, they actually memorize it and they internalize it very much. So in my opinion, it's not such a problem if they are going to be reading something. It would be much more of an issue, for example, as you said, if you did your first plan to let them wait in the waiting room.
Mm-hmm.
They wait and they wait and they wait and they wait, and then the time they have is super short, and a lot of pressure, not a lot of practice.
Yeah.
But if you can manage a way to then give them a lot of practice, a lot of cooperation with one or two partners,
right,
and then even maybe do it one and twice and three times to improve their performance. I think in that case there is a lot of learning involved, even though it's exactly real time.
Yeah. In the usual situation, all of the students are in the hallway and they're practicing. That's the hardest time they ever work. And it's great. I'm very glad. And they're saying the same thing over and over and over and over again, but that's what you have to do.
Yeah, that's right.
They work very hard.
I love that moment.
When again,
like I'm in teacher heaven, when all the students are just like so focused.
And at the end of that, at first it's 1 minute, then it's 2 minutes, and the final conversation test is 3 minutes. At the end, I thought I never could do this, but I am glad now I know I can do it.
Yeah,
so
isn't
that's
that great?
the only thing I want.
To me, that's more valuable than entertaining students with games and things. Although I'm not against games, but to me, a deeper thing is like doing something that you didn't think you could do, right? That completely changes their perception about their attitude toward the language, right?
Right.
That's really nice. Yeah. All right. Okay, everyone. It's 3:30 if you want to chat a bit more, but that's the time that we've set for today. We've covered basically everything. If you want to say anything else, go ahead.
Could you unshare your screen, please?
Sorry.
I just want to show something very quickly. I'm going to share mine, and I will show you the Alma Publishing YouTube channel. You go on YouTube and you type Alma Publishing, and you'll find it, because I think maybe all of you did attend the previous workshops. For some people who may not have, we did cover the activity you mentioned, Jerry. You said write by pairs in a Google document, a kind of specific procedure. This was covered in the two workshops, I think, and it might have been actually a bit clearer in the first one for some aspects. For some aspects, there was this one, how to use the conversation in class online activities or something. and managing class activities online. And in the second one, this is the most recent one, we also did cover Flipgrid very quickly, but I think they were, and the Google Forms as well in an interesting way, like the question of the day and things like that. So that's what I wanted to mention.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you so
everyone.
much.
Thank you so much.
Anyway, I hope that helps. Right, so we had a chance to go through all the book very carefully. It was nice to hear your thoughts on the different sections and how you approach them, and I learned a lot from you guys. So thank you very much for that. It was very good. As a textbook author, it's really, this kind of feedback is invaluable. And as we think towards the future and the 4th edition, you know, this kind of input is really crucial. And we really appreciate it. And I hope this is helpful, and hopefully you'll get the hang of this online teaching, and all the best to you guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, especially because I'm in my own little room. It's my sewing room, but I can't sew. And feeling all alone, so alone. So I'm really glad and appreciate your taking time to help us so much.
Okay, my pleasure, Rebecca. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's been very helpful.
All right, great. Thank you, Linda. Good luck to you guys.
And the Google Forms that Bruno was telling us about?
Will be shared with you in the next 5 minutes.
Thank you so much.
I do have a Gmail address for each of you, right?
Yes, so you'll share it by mail.
If you have any follow-up questions, you want to get in touch with me, talandis@gmail.com. And this is all to you watching on the video in the future.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Take care, everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.